Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Oscar Buzz. Trevor here. I'm joined by Thomas and a special guest, Andres from Filmtastic Panda. And you were at Cannes.
Yes,
Somewhere.
absolutely.
I wish I was. So we are just gonna run through this. Will be kind of a loose form conversation type of thing. But we're just gonna get some thoughts from Andre, somebody who actually saw the movies rather than just listening to us talk about the things that people said about the movies who were actually at Cannes. So we're just gonna run through some of the big things, ask some questions about potential awards prospects for some of the bigger titles. And honestly, I just kind of want to start out with the zone of interest.
Yes, it's
had
a big one. It's a big one.
insane
the elephant
hype
in the room.
from Metacritic. I ended up winning the Grand Prix, which short on the palm, but still, I mean, that's second place. Very highly awarded. I think that we could see it potentially breaking into some Oscars categories. But Andres, what are your thoughts on the film and its awards potential?
So, as you guys might have heard from Metacritic scores and reactions in general, the movie is very good. I liked it quite a lot. I think I gave it a 9 out of 10, and it's not your typical movie. It's really atmospheric, and it doesn't follow kind of conventional structures. Like you guys might know, it's about a Nazi family. It's basically following this family across the street from a concentration camp. And the movie really is about kind of the atmosphere it sets up. I was at a screening with just the 3 days of Cannes people. And it was a full screening. I mean, everybody was trying to get into this particular film because of the buzz around it. And you couldn't hear a pin drop in the room throughout most of it. There was moments in the film that were so unnerving and just shocking that I just had goosebumps. I felt like I was shaking in my seat from how just visceral the sound design of the movie is, and just the what it evokes without showing you anything. It's just a really, really exceptionally well made film, and just I think directorially has such a strong vision, and that's what really stand out from everything else. I mean, it's not really, it doesn't have a conventional plot or anything like that. Not a structure you would expect from any movie. But it's definitely a great film, and I think it's gonna definitely be in the conversation for the Oscars this year.
Yeah, I guess the barrier is accessibility. Yeah. I think that is the main barrier. So
absolutely,
I don't know what you think about that.
There's definitely that, and I think that might be part of the reason why it didn't end up taking up the palm, because I think Anatomy of a Fall ended up being the more agreeable movie out of the two, the more easy to kind of digest. I think it's not necessary. I don't see it winning major awards because it's too it's too experimental. It's too art housey. But I definitely see some nominations. Nominations are in play. I don't think winning is in the picture at this point.
We were talking about potentially picture nom, director nom, and then something like cinematography or editing potentially coming along. We were thinking Tree of Life. Picture
I think picture director makes sense, and then you could add on a couple texts. Sound makes the most sense. Editing also I could see definitely happening. The score is again not that prominent throughout the movie. It's mostly at the beginning and the end of the movie, but it is really memorable, so that could happen. Those are the things that I'm kind of considering. And as far as acting goes, I don't think any acting nominations might happen. I don't think screenplay is in the picture, but director for sure, and then sound for sure, and a couple other nominations potentially.
Because I know that it's the same cinematographer as Ida on Cold War, but I've heard that this is a lot dirtier.
The cinematography, it's not necessarily a standout aspect of the movie, and considering how many big movies are coming out this year, Dune Part 2, Oppenheimer, Killers of the Flower Moon, all these movies have almost guaranteed cinematography noms, and so I'm thinking this one is probably not going to sneak in there, if I'm going to be honest, but it has a slight chance. I just don't necessarily see it happening right now.
For sure.
Okay, I mean, the guy who did the score, Mika Levi, got nominated for Jackie, apparently. So but so you got nominated for Jackie, so there's potential there. There's potential there.
Yeah, there's potential there for sure.
So we're looking picture director and then a couple texts. And also just a very good film. So Thomas, what do you want to talk about?
Let's talk about, let's say, probably the most major Oscar contender that you were able to see, May, December. I think that is a very interesting case.
Yes.
We got the first reviews. people were a bit worried about it. People saying this is going to be the Oscar contender. Because previously going into Cannes, we were like, this could be a major Oscar contender. So what are your thoughts on Made?
Well, first of all, take my reaction with a little bit of a grain of salt because I had to leave the screening like 10 minutes before it ended because I had another screening right afterwards and I had to like, run across this like the city. But what I did get to see was very good. It's not your conventional kind of Oscar player. It's not really like an artsy movie at all. It plays it a lot more kind of. I don't want to like degrade the movie. I don't want to make it seem like less good than it is, but it's much more of a conventional kind of story and movie. The performances are very good. I think Natalie Portman is great in it. She is definitely the lead in the movie, I would say.
Okay, cool.
And then Julianne Moore would be supporting. And what's the name of the dude again? Charles Melton?
Charles Melton, yeah.
Yes, he's good in the movie as well. I'm not sure about him. I don't think he would get a nomination.
I've always thought that one sounded a bit. Yeah, I didn't.
Yeah,
think that would be
I don't think he does enough. And you know the part that I did get to see of the movie. I think Natalie Portman does look like the most likely out of the three to get in, just based on what I saw. She plays a character that's a little bit conniving and like she has to do a lot of.
Okay.
Yeah, so you have an idea of what the character is without her like really showing it. And I think the performance is very good. The score is really good. I really enjoyed the score.
Yeah.
And it's like it's a very detached from what like the actual story is. The score like makes kind of no sense for the movie, but it works in like unexpected ways. It's like very overly dramatic and like
it's camp. Like it plays into a big camp.
Yeah, exactly. I really, really enjoyed the score. As far as Oscar prospects go, I think again Portman could be a potential nominee. The score I like quite a bit. I think the screenplay has a chance. I wouldn't put it in my picture lineup as of now. I would put it right outside. And director, I don't think it's really contending for the.
What about Julianne Moore? Do you think Julianne Moore could happen?
I think Julianne Moore could happen depending on the strength of the category this year. I don't think she would be like a top contender though. I don't see this being like a winning conversation contender. But I think she could happen.
Because the comp that I initially made was Notes on a Scandal, which got actress, supporting actor, screenplay, score. And it was like, I mean, it's a very like kind of campy, but also like dark comedy film about, like a underage, overage relationship and all of that. Like it feels very similar.
That makes sense to me. That package makes sense to me, I think.
And then
we also discussed, I could see this just being a lone screenplay thing, like these sorts of dark comedies, sort of more, slightly, more quirky.
Something like The Lobster almost. I assume it's not totally like The Lobster, but like that.
Yeah, it's a little bit more, I think, agreeable than The Lobster, like a little bit less artsy than the Lobster is. But yeah, I think that makes sense. A screenplay nomination as its sole nomination could also happen. Because I don't think the performances are like that showy where you need to nominate them. There's nothing particularly like that crazy standout about. Like, there's not I wouldn't say there's like that much of an Oscar clip for Natalie Portman, but she is like consistently very good throughout the movie.
I think a lot of this will also depend on how much Netflix pushes it, because Netflix picked it up, and it's as of now we think it's their number 2 behind Maestro, but like could we see this end up being Netflix's number 1?
I mean, we could. I think we could. And if it's Netflix's number 1, it's in picture. Like I don't think that there's hard enough. Yeah, for sure. I think it has to go to crack into picture, not being like a contender to win it, but I think it has to.
Like we have like 8 or 9.
It could also just be dumped by Netflix just on the service, and then
I'm waiting on a release date. I'm waiting on a release date.
Because I know I saw some news about Maestro 2. They had another test screening, and apparently the reactions weren't positive. So
interesting. I heard the second test screening reactions were more positive than the first one.
Maybe the first one was was Bradley Cooper's great in it. Like he's amazing. Like he's probably gonna get nominated, potentially win for like his performance. The direction is like good and interesting. The screenplay is like a mess. That's what people say.
Yeah, that's what I heard as
fundamentally. Whatever Netflix pushes seems to get in, so it's just
they always they're gonna get something. Like if Netflix decides they got like The Lost Daughter into like 2 nominations in screenplay, which I also think could be a potential comp here. Like I mean, if Netflix wants you to get a nomination, you're gonna get the nomination.
Yeah, like, I mean, they accidentally got All Quiet, like almost all the way there.
Almost the picture.
They accidentally almost like they accidentally got All Quiet on the Western Front into second place probably. So like,
much.
Yeah, like Netflix is they're gods at campaigning.
Yeah,
so
they'll be fine. They'll get something in.
Like I think regardless, like as long as May December is like in their like top 3 or 4, it'll get a nomination.
I think it'll get a nomination. Screenplay makes sense if that's the lone nom for sure.
For sure. Cool. Well, let's hear about the Palm winner, Anatomy of a Fall.
Yeah.
Anatomy of a Fall. Okay, yeah. This movie was also very good. I quite liked it. I'd liked it, slightly less than The Zone of Interest and some of my favorites from the festival, but I think everybody like across the board thinks it's a good movie. It's this kind of courthouse drama that takes place after like somebody like a man falls and they don't know whether he committed suicide or he was pushed or it was an accident, right? So basically the wife is on trial, and the movie kind of takes place mostly in the courthouse, and like French and English and German too. It's like 3 languages intertwined.
Okay.
And it has like a bit of a flashback structure showing, what might have happened in the relationship, and has kind of the audience questioning whether she committed the crime or not. And you're basically put in the shoes of the jury throughout the movie. You don't really know like what happened, right? So you're about as blind as the jury is in this case. And the movie has some really, really great dramatic moments, especially towards the end. There's one moment at the end where like there's a resolution, and it's really like, I think, emotionally resonant, and I think it's one of the reasons why I ended up taking the Palm, because it's something that probably will strike a chord with most audiences. And obviously Sandra Hüller's performance in the movie has been much talked about, and she is really, really, really incredible in it, and has a hell of an Oscar like clip. The Oscar clip is right there for them to take.
I was going to ask about Sandra Hüller, because I've heard she is better in this than she is in Zone of Interest, but Zone of Interest presumably will be higher in terms of Oscar contention. Do you think, I guess, her performance in this is strong enough to get buzz on its own, or do you think a lot of the Sandra Hüller buzz will just fall to Zone of Interest?
I think because her performance in the Zone of Interest is not really a standout. Like, it's not like she's not good in Zone of Interest. She just doesn't get asked to do as much. In this movie, she does, the crying and the screaming and
the crying, screaming, yelling, throwing up, the whole thing.
Yeah, the whole thing, the whole Oscar thing. So I think if she gets in for an Oscar nom, it'll definitely be for this one, even though The Zone of Interest carries like more weight as a movie overall. I think The Zone of Interest will help her get a nomination for this specifically.
Interesting. Nice.
Yeah. And I honestly, at this point in the year, I would put her in my 5 for sure, because I think she is she is extremely, extremely strong in this, and it's kind of an undeniably good performance. People are comparing her to like Kate Blanchett last year, so that's what
I've been hearing. Like, I've heard it's like a masterwork of a performance. Like, I don't know. Like, people are saying like it could be like an international thing, kind of like Isabelle Huppert and Elle or something like that. Like, it could be the international thing that slides in.
Right.
I definitely think international features in play, as long as France isn't dumb again.
Yeah, there's a question about that though, because I'm not sure whether it would qualify based on how much English there is in the movie. I don't know whether the movie's in like.
Okay. Is there a lot of English?
There's a lot of English.
Okay.
So there would have to be we'd have to look into that to see what
Triangle of Sadness type.
Exactly. Well, it wasn't entirely English.
Okay.
But I do think it's probably a majority of the dialogue, isn't it?
Interesting. But it's a French production, yeah?
It's a French production, yes.
Okay. Yeah, they'll be curious to see how it breaks down, because like obviously if France is able to submit it, then I think it would be a top contender.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. And then the other 2 places I was considering it was Sandra Hüller for actress, which I've been flirting with the idea of putting her in my 5, as well as screenplay and the potential of an original screenplay nom.
Yeah.
Do you think that could happen as well?
I think screenplay can definitely happen. I think the screenplay is probably one of the strongest elements of the movie. The direction's interesting too, because she plays with some comedic elements with the direction. Like, there's some like push-ins that are very kind of like The Office or Succession like.
Okay, love it.
For comedic effect, and it works really well. But I think the direction's not, it's good and it works really well. I don't think it'll get nominated for direction, but screenplay I think could be an option depending on how strong the lineup is this year.
Cool. So screenplay, actress, international, if it's
eventually, yes.
Eligible. Got it.
And as far as text, maybe editing.
If it's massive and like gets into picture or something like that.
Right.
Yeah, because this is probably Neon's top thing.
Priority.
Could be.
Yeah, they have
yeah.
I mean, after winning the Palm, I'm assuming it has to be, right?
Yeah.
They also
Right.
have Perfect Days, and they have what else do they have?
Yeah.
They have Robot Days, I guess.
Robot Dreams, I think they just picked up.
Robot
Yeah.
Dreams, Robot Dreams.
And Lucky Mara as well.
Lucky Mara. Oh yeah, Lucky Mara. I didn't get the chance to see that, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I don't know. I'm very excited about Night of May Fall. It seems like something that I'd really like.
Yeah. No, I think you guys
and,
would enjoy it just based on what I see your tastes are on Letterboxd.
Yeah.
For sure.
Nice.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Thomas,
I mean,
you got something?
I guess we'll move on to what you have listed as your favorite of what you
Yes,
said, Perfect Days.
the new Wim Wenders.
Yeah.
Yes, the new Wim Wenders movie, Perfect Days. So I went into this movie with decently low expectations. I had an idea of what the concept was, and I knew it was going to be kind of like a slice of life, like very meditative movie. But I didn't really expect it to hit me as hard as it did.
Okay.
It's a movie that like unfolds slowly in a very patient way, and towards the end, without you realizing it, really creeps up on you emotionally. And I think it'll have a strong emotional reaction out of people if they're able to be patient enough to kind of sit through the whole thing. Obviously, the premise is this middle-aged Japanese man who cleans toilets for a living, and we're just kind of following his life for
giving John Diehlman.
Yeah, it's giving a little bit John Diehlman. It is a little bit John Diehlman. It's also a little bit like people have compared it to Patterson.
Okay.
It's definitely a movie that requires patience from the audience, because the entire like sequence of one vendor showing you like his routine is very purposeful. It's all very purposeful, and it comes to a full like in a really, really like just incredible way at the end. I can't rave about this movie enough. I think it's really incredible. It's my favorite of the festival, and I hope it gets some awards because I loved it so much.
I think I'm gonna be obsessed with this. Like, slow cinema is my thing. That's
You
like
would love
trademarked. Like,
Yeah.
like, slow cinema is absolutely. I mean, John Dillman's one of my favorite movies ever. So, like, I think I'll absolutely adore this. I don't feel like it's going to be an awards thing, though.
No, I mean, the actor did win at Cannes, potentially. I think he'd be the only aspect that might.
But what are your thoughts as far as awards?
Yeah, I think Koji Yakusho, the actor, it was very, very good in the movie. I mean, he's probably even just because I love the movie, I connected with his performance a lot. I think it was my favorite of the festival, even though Sandra Hüller is amazing. But his performance is a lot more understated, as you would expect with a movie like this.
Right.
So it'd be something like a Bill Nye or something like that, or like a Mescal, like something that it's not a screamy, cryy kind of performance. So he has a slight chance depending on how the lineup turns out this year. There's a lot of strong actor contenders this year, though, so I don't see it as a likely option. Again, the screenplay, it's not that kind of movie, so probably not. Direction, probably not. If I did see it going anywhere, it'd be international feature.
Is it eligible? Do you think
it would be eligible? It would be eligible because it's a Japanese production and it's entirely in Japanese.
Nice.
Okay, cool.
It really comes down to whether Japan kind of chooses this or Monster or some other movie as their selection.
Or they also have How Do You Live?
Or How Do You? Oh my God, yes, I completely
like Japan is stacked this year.
They are
this
stacked.
is why. Oh my God, I hate the rule so much that one country can only submit one movie. It's so stupid. Like that. Like just let them all compete. How Do You Live? Monster, Perfect Days. Let them all compete.
I know.
I hate it so much.
That's incredible. Wow, what a year they're gonna have this year. I mean, I hope they just don't submit How Do You Live, and then they just have the competing an animated feature. Because just give something else a chance to compete in international.
Yeah, it's so stupid.
God. Yeah, I guess I've heard Monsters maybe a little bit more accessible than this. So potentially, if they're looking at, if they ignore How Do You Live, I don't know. It might be an issue. That might be a big issue.
Like Monster. Yeah, I don't know. It would be interesting.
Well, because the thing about Perfect Days, just quickly before we move on to the next thing, is even though it's a movie that's you would expect, general audiences are not gonna necessarily buy into this movie, but if you look at the Letterboxd score, it's sitting at like a 4.0. Like people really like it and emotionally connect to it.
That is also Letterboxd people at Cannes.
Fair enough.
Like, again, I think I'm going to love this movie, and like from everything that you've said, I can very easily see this ending up in like my top 5 of the year. Because everything about, like, I love Wim Wenders, I love slow cinema. I mean, it's giving Jean Dielman. It's giving, like, I don't know. Like, it absolutely feels like this is going to be one of my new obsessions.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like an awards thing, except like you said, international, if Japan even picks it.
Right. No, I agree with that. I'm just I'm being hopeful, and I think it will be able to connect with some audiences for sure.
Absolutely. So I was going to say, if we're on the topic of Japan, let's talk about Monster.
Yes, Monster. Another movie I really liked from the fest. This one is, I would say, it's about on par with Broker as far as quality goes. I know you didn't enjoy Broker as much. It's a different. Yeah, it's a much different movie to that. It has you guys have probably heard, it plays a lot with structure. It does like a Rashomon kind of thing where it has like different perspectives that come together towards the end. I think the performances are strong, but they're a little, nobody's really like a lead in that movie. And I don't think the performances are going to be like in the awards conversation whatsoever. I think the screenplay won at Cannes. It'd be an interesting thing to look at, but I personally, out of the screenplays at Cannes, I think a movie like Anatomy of a Fall would have a better chance than this.
Yeah, probably.
I think for this, we're looking at an international feature contender as well. Again, really good movie. I quite enjoyed it.
Yeah, I'm hoping that I like this more than Broker. I feel like I know I'm hoping I do, because like I love Shoplifters.
Okay.
Broker just didn't work as well for me, but like I like the idea of him kind of breaking out of that form, because like Broker to me it just felt like diet Shoplifters, which I know is incredibly reductive, but like I know I'm happy to see him break out of it. Jesus, Song Kang-ho winning Best Actor at Cannes for Broker is still just very silly to me.
Yeah, like, that was a weird decision. I feel like
I don't understand what happened there, and the fact that he was like number 7 on Gold Derby for a while. Like I was like, what are we doing? What are we doing?
It's interesting that they went for like, because can't they just give Best Actor to, as long as they don't win the Palm, they can give it to like somebody from a movie that. As long as the movie doesn't win the Palm, right? They could have given it to like Park Hale or
technically, yeah. Typically, they like to keep it 1 for each, but I think the rule is that it's just the Palm has to be alone, which is probably why Ruler didn't win.
One thing about Monster though that I think the movie starts off really strong and it kind of peters off a little bit towards the end. It gets a little tiresome and dragged out. I feel like they could have trimmed that down a little bit, and because the ending is not, I didn't find it to be the strongest place to end the movie in. I think it might kind of leave us a bit of a sour or bitter taste in people's mouths. Not that it's like a bitter ending or anything. I'm just saying it's just not as strong as the rest of the movie is. Whereas some of the other movies we've talked about so far, like Zone of Interest, has like maybe the best ending of the festival. I'm not going to spoil it, but incredible ending.
And I mean, endings are always important, for any film, because they are what you leave a sort of voter potentially.
Yeah. Exactly, yeah. For voting, it makes a lot of sense. That's something to take into account.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so Thomas, where do we want to go?
So I guess let's start with, or not start with. We're quite deep into the video at this point. But let's talk about the final one that you saw that won awards, About Dry Grasses.
About Dry Grasses, yes. This was probably my third favorite of the festival after Perfect Days and Zone of Interest. It's quite close to Zone of Interest as far as personal preference. It's really, it's a long movie, 3 hours and 10, 14 minutes, something like that. It's very dialogue heavy, and it's a very kind of poetic, symbolic movie. It's like difficult to digest in one sitting for sure. So I'm gonna have to sit through it again. What I will say about the movie is, again, the screenplay is very dialogue heavy, but the dialogue is so captivating, and just, I think the screenplay has a lot of strength. I would, if I were a voter, I would nominate that. I think it's super strong. One of the best screenplays I've seen in recent memories. The performances are quite good as well. The actress won the Cannes Actor Award. I don't think that'll happen for the Oscars, but she's quite good in the movie. The lead actor is also really, really great. And just overall, a really just well-crafted, like great cinematography, amazing screenplay, really strong direction. Like just everything about the movie was very well crafted.
One, very hyped. 2, we're feeling international feature as its max.
Probably. I think this is
but I think it is a strong contender for international feature. I think it's the movie itself is quite strong.
I mean, if you look at I was just going to say, if you look at where by the time we get to the end of it, a lot of the international features are from Cannes, so it makes sense. So it's not too outlandish to think like 4 or 5 of them, but all 5 of them could end up being from Cannes. So.
Yeah, it's like Sundance with docs, like Cannes the spot for international.
Exactly. Yes. The only issue might be that the movie is like a little harder to digest because it's so densely packed with symbolism and stuff.
I mean,
but
Decision to Leave
and Drive My Car.
If that's not getting Decision to Leave to get nominated.
Oh, sorry,
that was one of the most upsetting things I've ever seen.
That was heartbreaking. That was
terrible.
But yeah, no, very, very hyped for About Augusta. Very, very hyped. Big fan of Once Upon a Time in Anatolia. So like this direct fireworks.
Yeah, you'll probably like it a lot.
To close us out, as far as some of the bigger things, let's talk about Elemental, Pixar film. It's coming out in a few weeks. I know you just did a video on your channel, so send everybody go watch that. It's very, very fun. We go in way more in depth to I think a lot of your thoughts on Elemental there. And so I'll link that and like your channel and everything description. Go check out Andres and all the things. But let's just hear some brief thoughts about it.
I'm very interested. Big Pixar fan, so don't break my heart too much.
I think you already have been with the 56 on Metacritic, the lowest in Pixar's history, by the way. The lowest in Pixar's history.
I'll be kind to the movie because I also, I quite like Pixar movies, and I'm also a huge Pixar fan, so I completely get where you're coming from, Thomas. I think the film has some really strong elements and also some real clunkers in it. To start with the good parts of the film, the first 20-30 minutes, the world building is really great and the humor is, top notch. I think the humor in the first 30 minutes is I thought we were hitting top notch Pixar Inside Out level stuff. And it just it petered out towards the end, right? They came up with a bunch of really, really clever jokes to show the interactions between all the different elements. And I was just I was eating it up. I was like, wow, this is so much fun. And then they come up with these really contrived plot devices to get the story going forward. And it just, I could see the wheels. I could see the gears turning while I was watching the movie. And I was like, oh God, okay. They're coming up with this thing so that they can go here and they can do this. And it's a very it's a kid's movie, but it's not quite that great. It's a movie I still kind of liked overall because I had fun, especially at the beginning. Towards the end though, the clunkiness of the plot devices and also the emotionality of the movie, Pixar has this thing where because they're well known for, being, making tearjerkers and making movies that are really emotionally resonant. I feel they feel they always have to make people cry. And in this one, they have these moments that are cry, audience members cry right now, and I just didn't work for me at all. And even people who are saying oh, I love the score, the score is so magical and majestic, and I was so enraptured. I was no, the score was not it. The score was so manipulative and not good. So I overall I think there's some positive elements to it, but I can totally see the mixed reaction on Metacritic, and I don't really get the people who are saying this is one of the best Pixar movies ever. I don't agree with that opinion, but again, it's an opinion. So
no,
and
I mean,
also,
I guess
go ahead.
Looking at it, it always just sort of looked like a bit of a concept movie. They had this concept, and
we're
then
doing a metaphor for racism with the
we need to do
exactly.
And potentially that's why the plot it just doesn't really work because that's not what the main focus of the film was.
Yeah. Totally. Go for it.
Listen, I have a general rule. Just if you're gonna do a metaphor for racism that isn't including people, maybe just don't. Maybe that just doesn't work. I found that if you're gonna do a metaphor for racism, maybe it should, I don't know, actually be about racism and not be we're gonna use animals or shapes. I don't know. I feel there's gotta be a better way to do this.
I'm telling you right now, you're gonna hate this movie. This movie's not cool. You're not gonna like it. And it's also an immigrant story and a love story, and all these things are intertwined, right?
Yeah.
So Ember's family, the main character, at the beginning of the movie, they're emigrating to Elemental City or Element City or whatever it's called, and they suffer from the prejudice of them being fire, and so fire is bad, and so they have to live somewhere else. So there's it's all of that. It's you watch the trailer and what you're going into, right? It's not it's
okay.
The story really does not go in an unexpected direction. There's also a plot line about how the daughter is supposed to take over her dad's shop, but she doesn't want to do that, and so she wants to do her own thing. And it's just, you know, I'm not gonna tell you how the movie unfolds, but like I think you can probably.
I think we can probably predict.
Yeah.
Mm.
Some people are saying we could be looking at the first year in a while where we don't have a Disney film in the lineup because the only other thing they have is Wish.
Wish, yeah, that looks terrible. That looks so
I
bad.
I think Wish looks better than this looked, but just based on the 2 trailers. As far as but it does look a little generic as well. So I get what.
I don't know. Do you think that this still has a shot in animated feature?
You know, it's interesting because I was in the closing night ceremony. Like this was the final film at Cannes. It was the only screening for it, so people were excited to see it. And I think some people around me had, you know, strong positive reactions towards it. So I can't say that people aren't going to like this movie because I did see some people liking it. Some people cried in the theater. You know, this is just my opinion where I stand on it. I think it's definitely not going to win. There's zero chance this wins animated feature.
Right.
I don't know like who might think this might win, but it's not going to win, especially with the Spider-Verse reactions coming out. We already know
they came out like just a day before as well, which really just
exactly
made these reactions.
Yeah, Disney just completely screwed up like putting this and Indiana Jones at Cannes because it got bashed. So yeah, I mean, I if this gets in, I could see it maybe get sneaking in as like a 4th or 5th nom. It's not going to win. It's not going to be anywhere near winning. Yeah, so How Do You Live and Spider-Verse definitely seem like stronger options at this point.
For sure. Yeah, rough year. rough year.
Good. I kind of liked it, but it's definitely like bottom tier Pixar, and because I basically like almost every Pixar movie I've seen. I haven't seen some of the worst ones, but I almost like every single Pixar movie. So yeah. This not the best.
No. Okay, it's a shame. But...
Yeah.
For sure. But that's pretty much all of the big things that you saw. Is there anything else that you want to briefly touch on?
Yeah, I'll touch on a few of the other titles I saw. I saw a couple more other in competition titles. I saw Last Summer, which is the Catherine Breillat movie, and it's like a mother who basically like she has an affair with like her stepson who was like underage, and it's just like a really erotic, interesting movie. I liked it. The direction is pretty interesting, but it's not going to be a major Oscar player. I think, you know, if you're interested in kind of like erotic, kind of thriller-ish movies, like you should go check it out. But yeah, definitely, you know, not a major Oscar player. And then I also saw Club Zero, which is, I think, Jessica Hausner's movie.
Yeah.
It didn't play that well in Cannes. I think most people didn't enjoy it as much. It tackles kind of food disorders or eating disorders and like sometimes uncomfortable ways. It has kind of like a Yorgos Lanthimos-esque style that doesn't work.
That was her previous film as well. People also were comparing it to Yorgos Lanthimos and saying it didn't work. So
no, she has like this deadpan thing going in the movie, but jokes really just don't land, and the movie is just like bleak, and the ending is just like really cynical and like just left a really bad taste in my mouth. So yeah, not for me. And then the other 2 movies I checked out were both at a competition, and I quite disliked both of them. I guess I'll start with the one I hated the most, which was Kennedy. Let me check out the name of the director. I think he's made a couple good movies before. Apparently, he made like 2 movies called Gangs of Wasseypur that are quite like well-liked. But this movie was just a complete disaster. Just like one of the most incoherent movies I've seen in like years. Just totally terrible. Please don't. I mean, if you like the director, you might want to give it a chance, but I wouldn't recommend it. And then I saw Cobweb, which is from a South Korean director. Let me just remind myself of the name. But some people did enjoy this movie. I spoke to quite a few people who liked it. It's Kim Ji-woon who directed it, and it's like this meta commentary on directing. About this director who's like trying to craft a masterpiece, and he's asking for a couple days to reshoot his movie. And it has some like black and white elements weaved into the movie. It's like a comedy, and it's just like a chaotic movie where like a lot of stuff is happening on set, and they're kind of just like dealing with all the crazy stuff that's happening. It just like did not work for me at all. The comedy didn't land. The screenplay I thought was like really muddled, and it was like 40 minutes longer than it needed to be, and just wouldn't be a personal recommendation. But you know, some people liked it, so you might want to check it out if you like the director. But yep, that's pretty much all I checked out at Cannes.
For sure. Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, glad to join you guys.
Really appreciate the insight, clarifying a couple of things from somebody who actually watched the movies. But everybody, go follow Filmtastic Panda. Go follow Andres. That's the name of your channel, right?
Yes, that's the
Filmtastic
name of
Panda.
the channel, yes.
Yes, cool. So I'll have that in the pinned comment and in the description. Go check them out. Also, there's Oscars film stuff. All the like. If you watch, if you like our stuff, you'll probably like him. It's it's a circle. But yes, definitely go follow Andres and stay tuned to us. I guess we'll be talking about more things with Oscars and Emmys and movies and TV and all the things that you probably like if you're here. So I guess that you can follow us all on Twitter and Letterboxd and all the things as well. Those will be in the description. But thank you everybody for watching. And until next time, stay safe, everybody, and goodbye.